It's the last day of this amazing gathering. Feels like day 10 in a good way. So this is panel number 2 today, and we've got a beautiful, diverse range of wise women on our panel today. A couple are trying to escape, as you can see. So we've put them in age range, and they're having a little battle there about, you know, who's getting closer to the microphone over here, I think. So we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be discussing the future of traditional wisdom, and where do we go from here, from this place? You know, how do we take this out into the big wide world, and is there a future, and how do we see that future, and what does it look like? And we'll be asking some questions around that. But firstly, I want to introduce everybody, and I just want to say that where are we? Everything has gone out of my little sequential part here. So, okay, ditch the book, the words aren't popping out. So, I'll make it up. We've got the beautiful Jacqui Bushell here, who is an elder in this work and a really beloved teacher and guide. And when we hear your name spoken, Jacqui, even though I've got on my notes what you do, what comes through, you speak to everybody's heart, yeah? And everybody opens up and they light up, and I know that comes from your deep, you're a conduit for this beautiful planet, and you hold such loving integrity and sensitivity and listening, and you awaken that in others. And I think that is a really beautiful gift that you share with us. Yeah. No, but it's true, eh? Yeah. True that. Yeah. And here we have a woman who I believe told me that she didn't realise she was on the panel, which is Christine Thomas, who's the representative of the the Herbal Extract Company. And I don't know anything about you, Christine, but can I speak for the company just for a second to introduce you? Well, in the research, I'm just trying to get a picture of everybody and get an overall, intuitive sense. I looked through all of the memories. There's like a little memories page on the website, and I looked through the old pamphlets, and it was really mind-blowing. I thought, there's a tradition here. And this is what we're creating here by gathering together and being together. We're creating new traditions for the future. We've got beautiful stories now emerging, and to now read that we speak about the actual, let's take this, and this is really good for this, and this is great for that. This herb is good for that. But to actually be the ones that are producing that, I mean, you're the rock stars at the very foundational level, And I saw how they. Well, I can't say that I understand the alchemical process of producing these herbs, but I could see there was something that said there's no heat or concentration step used in the continuous flow cold percolation process. But what I got out of that was minimising any stress or damage to the original matrix of the raw materials. So, and you're a representative for that, yeah. So that's what I that's what I thought about that little honouring, yeah. Because somebody actually puts those potions together that keep us well and healthy and in a state of love.
Christine actually writes their really awesome technical articles that they're producing now.
Can you say that in your biggest, loudest voice?
Christine now actually writes the technical articles that Herbal Extracts Co are producing.
Oh, fantastic.
Shall I say it one more time? Christine actually writes the articles, the technical articles that Herbal Extracts Co are now producing, and they are the most, to a practitioner, they are the most useful handouts, the information and the alternatives for herbs that's not in stock, which we've had a lot since COVID. It's just wonderful information. So thank you, Christine. They are wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, we needed someone that was in the know. And we will pass along over to Kerri there. Okay, someone that did not expect to be on the panel as well, and it's the beautiful Kerri Alexander. And I just want to honour Liz for a moment that would have been on the panel today. Beautiful Liz, and she ran her workshops and she's had to go home for a variety of reasons. And Kerri, that's been trying to escape behind the door, is now found herself sitting here, and she's been called up by the beautiful elders, and that's because Kerri is a rock star in my eyes. So I'm a counsellor and I work in conjunction with Kerri, and it's a really beautiful flow relationship where I can send people to her because I believe that the herbal way works in complement with this, you know, the mental health stresses of everyday living. Your research, your ability to be present, your clarity of mind, and your physical presence and the way you hold people, Kerri, is amazing. So, big watch this space, yeah, and Kerri, yeah, beautiful herbalist, naturopath, and also really working into the women's cycles, you know, the hormonal health and all the nutrition and herbs to support us through that, because once we're supported, we go into our heart, you know, that's what we need, women, our heart and strength. Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to Hollie. Now, there's a couple of words I had here. No, but I want to say them and they disappeared. Give me a second. Okay, they won't appear. So, I know you, Hollie, and we all know Hollie, this amazing edge walker. So when I was doing the research on you, I thought, what's a dojo? Am I saying it right? Between the dojo and women's circles. And I started researching. I thought, oh my God, of course, it's you expressed and encapsulated who you are so brilliantly just in that. Which the dojo. Could you speak to what that is?
So I think on my website it probably says Hollie grew up between the dojo and women's circles, something like that.
Yeah.
So I started martial arts when I was 3 and trained until I was 18, and I now run a school and all sorts of things. So a dojo is just a place where martial arts happens, really. That's the simple version.
Yeah, and to hold a gathering like this, you need a person that's got martial arts experience and built-in strength and resiliency, you know, when the wind comes along and topples and rips things apart and such things, yeah. So I know that there's so much that you do, Hollie, with your circles. You've been running the Institute of Self-Crafting, all the cycle work that lunation calendar that you produce, and the diary, connecting women into their cycles. But actually, I think you're working with all people in this cyclic intelligence, and I look forward to seeing how that's bubbling and brewing, and perhaps we can speak about that when we're looking at the future of where we're going, the future of health. So la, Hollie. So what I think this morning, because we've had a little bit of late night and, you know, all the rest, I'm just going to ask the question that's actually on the page to ask. Winging it. So I'm going to ask each of our panel members to this question, and we'll be able to see through their lens and their life experience how that will look. So the question is around the future of health and where will traditional wisdom fit. And I know that you all work in different ways. So Jacqui, bringing that question to you and the kind of work that you do, which is, you do an amazing balance of that incredible sensitivity to the plant world and bringing that loving heart and gentle way. But on the other side, you're this amazing activist, and you navigate that really well. Usually when we see the activist type of woman, she's, quite, in that space, but you come really, your activism really comes from the heart. So where do you see your type of work into let's start with your personal future for you, and then step into the bigger picture of where the world is now.
For me, is that the kind of right place it's working? Okay. I stopped working primarily as a herbalist and naturopath a number of years ago because what I was wanting to do for what I feel is my, I guess, one of my key patterns or ways of being in the world is to work more emotionally and energetically. And I work in much more of a systems way. What I was seeing was I needed to know, as a naturopath, because of the changes in health that I was seeing in the communities and in younger and younger people with chronic illnesses, and the neurological changes that I was seeing in so many, or the kiddies on the spectrum, I needed to choose with developing a very specific more education around working with those things. And I didn't want to. For me, I didn't want that particular technical knowledge and to be able to keep prescribing a lot of supplements and to work specifically with a lot of physical symptoms. I wanted to really hone in emotionally. What I was seeing and what I found that I was continually working with, even under the label of naturopath, was that I was getting people moving and feeling and coming into their body and connecting with spirit and spirit and spirit. What I saw was a lack of deep presence. I was seeing the opening through the crown, the touching and connecting with sort of spiritual experiences or transcendent experiences, but I wasn't seeing women in their body or closely allied with their cycles. I wasn't seeing a level of deep presence. So I basically packed up shop, packed up everything. My website's still offline because I'm still trying to work out what it is that I am these days. And I realised I had to call my business Sacred Presence. And my work is primarily about that. How do we come home to ourselves even more? Because there is so much shifting and changing, so many old rules. When I started studying, stop me because I tend to talk. When I started studying naturopathy under Judy Jacqui back in the 80s, basically all you needed to do was give people a whole foods diet, get them moving a little bit, and that was about it really, and get them meditating, and it fixed everything. And then it stopped fixing everything because the food that we eat isn't working. And I was realised my main question is, how can I be of most service, given the pattern of what I am? How can I express that? So for me, what I keep seeing is, how do we create a platform that will provide a way for people to explore coming home to themselves, coming home in a deeper, more empowered way, embodied way, and to be able to do that rooted in the earth with a sense of embeddedness and belonging, so that will help give people a sense of the land is medicine and that they have wisdom and resources in themselves, because with so many of the old rules changing, even energetic rules, chakras are shifting and changing, grids of the earth are shifting and changing, rules in our community are shifting and changing around health. So the only thing that I see is one of the absolute key foundations is flexibility. And in order to do that, we have to be really in our body. And I use story as a way of providing a framework for that, to explore all sorts of things.
And do you see yourself moving into that mentorship role and sharing that deep wisdom with people that seek you out, to, you know, as we're leaving legacies behind and are speaking of the future now,
Yeah.
to sit and be with you, and
Yes.
you know, you're more than like a big workshops, they say, but more that by your elbow, apprenticing, I suppose, with you.
Yeah, it's been tricky for people to do that. I've done one-on-ones with people who want to understand more about essences, who want to be able to know how to be very specific working with frequency. And essences basically teach you about the nature of combining frequencies in order to be able to communicate very particular patterns of consciousness to be able to support people. So that also comes back to listening. Not make much sense unless you're sort of playing with essences. But basically, it's as we learn how to work with anything that's coming at us, emotionally, mentally, in the world, then we can learn even more truly what it is that we are and how to relate with everything. So I do work with folks around learning about essences, and also a lot of other work around deepening into communication with themselves within nature, because we can't listen to anything around us unless we're in our body. So I do some, but mainly that's in small groups, because then they get to bounce off each other a lot more.
Well, my sense is now with the Wise Woman gathering and the hope that it will continue, which it will continue, that each knowledge keeper has her own particular quality that she holds for the whole community, and through having that presence, the community will be able to absorb a part of that, into them, and that's that future succession, if you know what I mean, continues on into the community, and so I'm excited for the future myself, actually, despite what's going on. So thank you for holding that sacred presence. Thank you. And Christine, as well, through Sally, she said that you write those articles through your understanding of the work and what you represent with the Herbal Extract Company. Where do you see the future of health at this moment, where a lot of the products are actually disappearing off the shelves, and how does that look for all of you producing them, and where is it going to go in this brave new world? Yeah.
Yes. Is this okay?
Yeah, I believe so.
I just want to say I'm really humbled to be up here to start with, and also I'm used to sitting by myself writing. I'm not used to expressing it verbally. So it's going to be interesting. But I have so much to say about this subject. So it's nice to have an opportunity. But what's really potent for me, I guess, is keeping herbal medicine alive for my children, because I do see traditional herbal medicine dying, and evidence-based medicine is growing. And I feel a lot of that is because practitioners want to look legitimate, and so they want to have evidence to show that it works, which is understandable. However, it seems to be at the expense of traditional herbal medicine and knowledge. So I'm really passionate about that in my writing. I try to build up traditional herbal medicine, and so what I'm seeing is there's all these clinical studies being done on herbs, but the way that they're being interpreted is deceiving in a way, because there's a lot of in vitro and in vivo evidence, which is in the test tube or in an animal. But because people want to look legitimate, they're using that evidence and saying, oh, the herb does this. Turmeric does, kills cancer because it did it in a petri dish. And we cannot extrapolate that evidence to humans until it's done in humans. So I've been seeing a lot of that happening, and I'm really pushing back against that in my writing and only using human trials. I hate the animal trials for one. I mean, we're meant to be herbalists. Using trials that are done, they're terrible what they do to them. So there's that. And then also I'm finding that they're trying to pharmaceuticalize the herbs.
they're taking the constituents, say for example curcumin from turmeric, and it's called turmeric, and everyone thinks it's turmeric, but it's curcumin. It's totally different, and it's you know, we're talking about the matrix of the herb. So what I'm really passionate about as well is the synergy of all the constituents, because when you get them all to work together, they have this magic, this plant magic. So you know, with the future, I think the great tragedy of our modern life is that we have this disconnect with nature, as you've been talking about a lot. And plants are a way to, like a portal into a connection with nature. And so herbal medicine's really important in that way, because it gives these people, especially in the city, who are surrounded by cement, a connection to nature. Even though they're not in there, but it's the way that it's done, and at the moment they're being denatured. And as well, for me, sustainability is so important. You were talking about this yesterday. With COVID, so you were talking about like we sold out of like so many things. Like I felt sorry for the people whose businesses, like a lot of our friends were in entertainment, and they were just like slammed. But we, Herbal Extract Company, just like we had 6 times the amount of sales. Like, you know, elderberry just sold out in like 10 minutes or something, you know. And then we saw the fallout from that, where we couldn't get supply, because our supply is coming from all over the world. And we were getting herbs stuck in the docks, and wildcrafters went wildcrafting in like Eastern Europe. And then we've got these people going, you know, when you're out of stock, they're like, I want that herb, without sort of understanding where it's coming from and who's picking it. So for me, I'm getting really passionate about thinking we have to start going local, and Pat Collins has been talking a lot, and I don't know how to make that happen, because there's a lot of intellectual property rights, like say with the First Nations knowledge. But then they didn't have a lot of the diseases that we had anyway, so how do we work out what herbs we're going to use for our illnesses? And there's not really like an industry. So it's a big job to try. Wow. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and so I've sort of got a lot to say about it. Yeah. But there's, so I'm very positive about the future, as long as some of these issues are looked at. And I feel that's why I really like working for the Herbal Extract Company, because I feel they're the only company that stayed true to the traditional herbal medicine. A lot of the other companies are standardising, which is isolating active chemicals and spiking them to that one chemical. And, you know, the evidence changes, and we don't do that. We just keep the herbs. It's just, you know, ethanol and water, they macerate, percolate, put it in a bottle. And that's why I can feel authentic working for them. But there's still a lot of work to be done, because, you know, we need to start buying local. We need to... Wow. You didn't hear that. Yeah, you painted such an amazing picture there. And when we had the panel yesterday, you know how you go off and thoughts come through, I should have said that, you know. And so I can say it now, I remember at that time thinking, oh my goodness, you can't get any vitamin C anywhere, you can't get any of those immune boosting supplements, and just thinking that seriously, there's a lot more alternative minded people around reaching for these things than we thought of. Yes. And so I take hope in that, and that is actually showing that there's community bigger than our little communities that are around us. So I take hope in that. I'm getting it when you mentioned about the wildcrafters, aren't doing their wildcrafting in Europe. There was a visual picture came through, and I think it'd be really good to bring that visual picture into the articles, for example. So we start creating like a global community and a real sense of how this looks and where the plants come from, and which cultures are cultivating, doing that upon those lands and honouring those traditions.
I've had a vision for where we are at Half Ground, and Kerri's come and supported me and done some work there, but it's, can I produce things here? You know, how can I produce things here? Like the mugwort grows in abundance there, the yarrow's growing in abundance there, but I've got no concept of how much quantity would be needed, you know. So this comes back now down to land, sustainability, clean water to get the plants growing, and creating them ourselves here. So there might be some philanthropists in the audience here.
It's very complex. It's
Yeah.
because it's such a sort of conveyor belt of things that have to happen. We are governed by the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Association. We have a license with them. We've just had an audit, which, you know, and they come and audit us. And there's a lot of paperwork and, you know, testing, and we have to have reliable suppliers and a reliable supply, as well as reliable supplies, as in like there's they check for heavy metals and pesticides. So I mean, you know, they should all be organic. I can't believe there's, you know, herbs that we're buying that aren't organic. You know, I mean, we still test for everything, but it's medicine. But there's a great book that's just come out called The Business of Botanicals by Anne Arbret. She's an American herbalist.
Write that one down.
And it talks about this whole thing. I've been trying to find some stories about our suppliers, but it's very difficult to even get a story, because we buy from a wholesaler, and then they buy from like a co-op in Germany, and these wildcrafters are just bringing in small amounts, and it all gets put in. And is it fair trade? Is it you know, that book really goes deeply into it. But health and well-being has never been more apparent, and that's one good thing about COVID. And I think the biggest plague is chronic disease, and modern medicine doesn't have anything for that. So this is where healers, you know, and I feel like a fraud because I'm not actually healing anyone, I'm writing about it. I'd love to, but I don't fit in, but I talk to a lot of healers. And there's chronic disease, non-communicable disease. I just did a paper about heart disease is the biggest killer. Cardiovascular disease kills more than anyone. 18.3 million people, I think, died in 2019 from cardiovascular disease.
Wow.
Put that in perspective, 3.3 million people have died so far from COVID. And yet we don't see these programs saying, because we know how to prevent cardiovascular disease. You have to exercise, and we have to work on obesity, and we have to stop smoking, but where are all the programs talking about this?
Wow.
So,
Okay.
I know.
What I'm feeling in this story is a lot of hope and a lot of work to do. And
we need to find solutions. Is my big takeaway.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kerri, so where do you see the future of health, and how traditional wisdom will fit the future of health?
I'm going to take it to another perspective. I am sitting with a Wiradjuri law woman at the moment, and I'm learning Indigenous medicine. And I feel that, in fact, we have an amazing resource there that is so untapped and so unacknowledged. I feel though that as herbalists, as naturopaths, as healthcare providers, we need to approach that with incredible sensitivity and gentleness, so that, sorry, can you not hear me enough? So that we can work alongside these incredible elders, this incredible knowledge system that we've basically ignored since we've been on this land. And I think that if we can find a pathway to work alongside, where traditional knowledge is valued, acknowledged, honoured, I think we have an amazing way forward. Even the minuscule amount that I know, that I've been allowed to know, that I've been taught so far, has made a huge difference in my practice. And not only that, we can, I mean, this can go so far. This can go to healing relationships, this can go to healing the land, this can go to future vision for our country, for our land, for everybody. It brings sustainability. I mean, I could just keep going on and on, really.
That's it's really beautiful that you started there today, Kerri, and I will acknowledge that it's Min Meyer, who's a senior Wiradjuri law woman, and she's getting towards the end of her years now and very frail, but she has an urgency to communicate these medicines, and then there's only a small group of women that are working with her at the moment, and Kerri's been learning with her. But I want to say that because we're living upon the lands where our systems aren't doing proper sorry business or acknowledgements, it paralyses the rest of our society, because how do we leap in and want and get hungry for these medicines of the land when we don't have structures to connect with the original people here and the wounding there? So there's certain pathways and protocols and diplomacy, and what I got about what you were saying too, Christine, I can see that you're a diplomat in this and a networker, and this gentle path of walking that way, Kerri, is it's really good to open the conversation in this way, because it speaks to all of us being here and what that means. Yeah. And the medicines are amazing.
The medicines are incredible, and like I said, there is such a treasure trove, but we have got to be so careful that it's not just the next wave of colonisation.
That's
I'm just
right.
gonna say it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it.
Absolutely.
We have to be so careful, and it's not just about seeing it through our Western perspective so that we can analyse and find active constituents so that we can make it about that. That's not what it's about. You know, the work that I've been doing with Min Meyer is so much about apprenticing and being in that apprenticeship role and understanding that it is a slow evolution, but there is a reason for that. There is a reason that traditional teachings are the way that they are and the way that they're taught. So,
and she gets quite feisty when she finds out the analysis is going on them. She's like, do you mind, Kerri, you shared a really beautiful healing story with me yesterday, and using medicine in this way so that women can get a little bit of a picture. Would you be happy to share that one about the little?
You want the one about the little Joey?
One about the little Joey, just so that we can get a picture of these medicines and how they work.
Just the end part?
Yeah, you don't have to tell her the big medicine picture on it. That's too epic. Beautifully epic.
So my husband is a vet, and he does quite a lot of wildlife work. And I am very fortunate to be able to work alongside him in that work. So we had a Joey come in. He was only about 3 months old. He's lost his mama. So he was with the Wires carers. And this poor little blossom, he was so unwell. He was malnourished. He was covered in eczema and skin disease. And my husband had been doing the usual vet thing, and he rang me and he goes, "It's not working." And I went, "Okay, so what have you done?" So he told me what antibiotics the little man had been on, and they had been putting him in a medicated bath as well. So I said, "Okay, this is what you need to do." So we changed the protocol of what he was doing. I put him onto probiotics so that he could start actually refluorinating his little gut. I put him on echinacea drops, so those both went into his milk that he was getting, because they have a marsupial milk that they substitute. So those were going into his milk every day. And then I said, and I'm going to call Min and ask her. So I had a conversation with Min Maya, and she said to me, he needs raspberry leaf tea, native raspberry leaf tea. She told me how to make it. And at this point, I had no access to raspberry leaf tea. So we told his carers, and it was so just synchronistic, because one of his carers works at Kimbriki, and she knew exactly where there was raspberry leaf growing. So I did the medicine woman thing, and I gave them instructions for what I needed. So they went and gathered the plant for me, they gathered the amount for me, and then brought it into the clinic so I could then make the medicine for them, which is what I did. I made the medicine for them, and they came back to pick it up and started giving him a dose of raspberry leaf tea. I think it was 1 dose every day for 4 days, and wait and see how he was. And then we changed, he was fine. We changed the dose, and off they went, and we left them on that. So about 10 days ago, a week ago, he came in with his carers, and this little boy is doing so beautifully. He is well. His fur has grown back. My husband said his fingernails look like he'd been at a beautician. He's eating. He even hopped across the clinic room and jumped into his pouch. He was that happy. So he's well, he's happy, he's doing well. Yeah, so good. And the raspberry leaf, I mean, in Western herbal medicine, we use raspberry leaf as a tonic, but native raspberry can be used as a tonic as well. It's like a multivitamin pill that's growing wild out there and can be used so easily for injured wildlife, for sick children, for just general debilitation. So, yeah, there we go.
Wow, that's a lovely story. Yeah, and and Min tells us, the medicine of the kangaroo is a kangaroo can't go backwards; it can only go forwards. So it feels like a really beautiful symbol, beautiful metaphor for all of us. Just got those all fracturing of all the old ways, and those rules of engagement are not operating anymore. So we have to be present in our sacred presence and leap forward like kangaroo. So I think that baby kangaroo is a really beautiful medicine. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
I will say I have so much wild raspberry at my house, so if anyone wants to come and wildcraft it, it's everywhere.
Oh, that's awesome. Hollie, so that question. Can I ask it to? I want to ask it to you in relation to something that I read on your website as well. So something that really struck me is this little statement that you put: are you someone who feels overwhelmed more often than productive? And do you constantly go from inspirational, world-changing momentum to collapse on the bathroom floor moment with a little piece in between? Nobody resonates with that, do they? And I just, got whispers of this great excitement of this cyclic framework that you're deepening into, because you've been working in the cycle space for a long time. But here I'm hearing a lot of bipolar activity, like up there or down there, not much cycling in between. So can I just ask you to, when you're thinking to answer the question through the lens of this passion of yours about the future of health and where this traditional wisdom can go now?
I'm so glad that you specified, because I was like, where am I going to go? So many places. Everyone says such good things that I want to speak to. But I'll just speak to them. Okay. So in my daily life, I'm a counsellor, and I've over the last 12 months, I've just niched down to that, exactly that. Yeah. So it's so exciting, because there are all these women who are so go-getting, that want to change the world, and they're not necessarily all hippies and weirdos. Right? I work with a woman at the moment in Melbourne that works for RMIT, and she's in the learning development program, but she's this really like A-type, go, planning, writing lists, like, you know, so, and so being able to teach someone like her the rhythm, I call it the rhythm, you know, or Jane Hardwick, you would call it the map, or the, you know, the 4 seasons. You've seen it in many different versions, but to be able to show that to the regular people that haven't been exposed to it, it's like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you had that experience the first time you got it too, right? It's like everything suddenly that didn't make sense makes sense, and everything that's not working suddenly makes sense. You know, it's so exciting to work with those people. So that's what that bathroom floor thing is about. And then, what was the other question?
It was like I see that you're deepening into this practice. You know, you've emerged from the the woman's mystery stream in the understanding and recognising the cycles, bringing it out now to the more contemporary framework. And I feel like there's something more. Something more is emerging for you as you deepen into this understanding.
Well, and I don't know
through
if
mental health, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something more, but it's a deepening, and it's a all the threads are all able to pull together. Really feels really easily, you know. So the threads of the threads of mental health, but the threads of all of the women's stuff that we talk about, and then the threads of mitochondrial health. So the best thing about being a counsellor is that, like, I'm not really supposed to do anything. All I'm going to do is talk to them. And so anything I say in reflection or I suggest is all part of my practice. So I can talk about sleep, and I can talk about mindfulness, and I can talk about what kind of music you listen to, and how you move, and what you're eating, and like it's all encompassing. And because I just have, you know, I've been in natural health world since I was 11. I've seen all the things, I've done all the things, and I feel like I have a very clear understanding of what can work in the specific situation for each person. Yeah. So it's not like and no one has one modality. I'm not trying to suggest that anyone has just one modality, but to be able to just drop little bits into conversations with people, and you know, they don't always take it all, but they might come back later and we can go that little bit deeper with it. And it's just, it feels like whether they're weird hippies or they're like super mainstream people, there's a place for the threads to weave very simply to become their everyday life. And that's what I'm really interested in. So whether I'm talking about nervous systems or mitochondria or, you know, just whatever, like there's a place for all of it. And if people can just get it in a simple way, they don't have to read it, they don't have to follow a particular protocol, you know, they just do the little steps one at a time, and it becomes a part of their habits and their everyday life. That's how we change the world, right? It's not, it doesn't have to be big, massive pictures or big actions or a book. It doesn't have to be a book, you know, you don't have to write a book to change the world. You can just put little bits of information into other people and let them take it wherever they go, and then they blossom with it and they become their whole selves.
Because each of those people belong to a community of other people. And then there's that resonance that goes out into their communities, and on it goes. And this is the way you describe that, your experience in your work is the wise woman way, you know. And it's very different from that, you know, hierarchical, top-down, you know, telling, you know, the expert telling everyone. It's coming from that, your life experience. And I know that you're sitting at the end of the row, but at the beginning of the row from that way. And in your 39 years, just wow, the experience that you've had. I think somebody said, "What? She's 39? How's that possible?" Not that you look at any particular age. It's just the experience that you've had, and you've woven all of your life experience into your CV, your life experience, you know. And yeah, and while I'm on the subject of the life CV, we spoke about it yesterday in the Bone Woman workshop. Your CV, yes, it says qualifications, you went and studied and you had late nights with, but your actual CV is all of the things that have challenged you, every thing that you've learned, people you've spoken to along the way. Each person is sitting on their stories, and we need to get back to this sharing of knowledge in this way. And I love that. I love the way that you expressed it. It doesn't have to be in the book. It can be these little bits and pieces. Yeah. Yeah, is there anything else you
Just
want
in
to...
terms of, like, from the mental health angle,
Yeah.
I think a lot about how everyone wants to do. And I mean, that's a big part of my niche, right? Because these are women that want to do. Like, I've got to do all the things. And if we can do heaps, but if we don't do the inside stuff, and I don't mean inside by like sitting and meditating and feeling like you're relaxed and cool because you say om or something, I don't know. Not that. But the work, the stuff that gets in your way, the challenges, and I'm sorry, that doesn't come with a herb. It doesn't come with an essence. I mean, it does a little bit come with an essence, but you still have to do the work, and you have to be able to communicate with other humans, and you have to relate together. And that's where I think the practice of sitting with people is important. And so when I say you can't do it with a herb, I know that a herbalist is sitting with someone. And so there's that element of the work. Like, going back to whoever was talking about holisticness, we can't just take one part of a cycle and make it all about that. It's every single part of our everyday life is the healing, is the work, is the play, is who we become and how we shape the world. So if all you're doing is taking supplements and herbs and still rushing through your day and not really looking inside, then you'll eventually fall over anyway. So you might as well do the looking inside first and then clean up with the herbs afterwards.
I told you she was first from that side.
Go first.
Hearing that passion in your voice, Hollie, I'm hearing, reflecting back into Minmai's teachings, basically, is be boss of yourself, be personally responsible, own your stuff, and everything else can come from that. I had wanted to open up a conversation about mitochondria. Maybe I can just become an audience member, but I won't now. I think we might just open up for some questions from the audience to ask our beautiful panel here. And we need a volunteer runner with a microphone to take it to people.
I'll volunteer and ask a question as well.
Absolutely. You've got the talking stick.
Cool. Hang on. Carrot? No. Christine. You said about, I'll find it when I'll stop looking. Okay, you just said it then, Jacqui, about, Jacqui, bloody hell. Yeah. Taking responsibility for your owning yourself, right? So, and then Christine, it's like you said in the 80s that natural cooking was all about, eat well, move a bit, and meditate, and then I'll solve things, but then it stopped working, right? That was you. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I guess my question is, and Hollie's pointed this too, that you have to do the work. So all the, because people are generally looking for that quick fix, isn't it? That tablet to fix things and not wanting to do those things themselves, either because they don't know that you can do those things for themselves, or they just can't, or they just won't and don't, because they think it's too hard. It's not easy, and everyone's after convenience, and that's why they want the pill in the bottle. How do you, I guess, sort of promote that more, that people do need to be, that the pill is going to help but isn't going to solve necessarily unless you do it yourself? And also, what future do you see in that? You said that, medical's on the, Western on the rise and herbalism on the downturn, possibly. So all those things, where I see it is that eating good food and moving and meditating, they're not making money for anyone, obviously. The pharmaceutical industry is not making money from people being healthy, they're only making it from people being sick. And it's going to continue. And the doctor's prescribing pills but not saying, well, you need to also look after yourself and yada yada. So is there a solution to this? I mean, this is at the heart of everything, isn't it?
I've got something to say to that too, actually.
Like, it's such a big thing, isn't it? Like, how do you get past the pharmaceutical industry is to make money, not to make you better.
Okay, let's wrap that and get over here, because we've got to get through some questions, and I feel quite hot on this topic too.
I'm just going to take the one piece that Cass said, which is no one's making money. And we always say that when we mean the pharmacy companies are making money. So the answer is, There's so many business opportunities we've spoken about this weekend that if we put the money in the hands of the people who are actually going to do good things, then that fixes all that stuff that you just said.
Yeah.
There's more of us than them. There is more of us. Of all
Yeah.
the people that aren't working for a pharmaceutical company, lots more, right? Put the money in those people, give them the ideas, support them, and then that's the change.
Yeah. I'm just going to have a quick reflect on from Kath to Hollie to this. This gathering, what I believe in essence is about, that we start to get that muscle of having each other's back. And Maya says we've all taken a drop of the bitch essence. That's got to stop. You know, let your sisters shine. Okay, you may not be shining right now. Who gives a shit? Let her shine. Your moment will come to shine too. We need to support each other, stop that stuff, and get behind each other's backs. Going to that question that you said, fundamentally, why are people wanting the quick fix? I'm going to tell you why. People cannot afford their house. People cannot afford their rent, their mortgage, their basic living, and so much comes from that. They're chasing, they're running, they're chasing quick food. Our beautiful society and all the gifts they could have gifted us had they lifted up from base chakra, if it still exists, up into heart chakra. We would all be experiencing a lot more of the collective, momentum. So I feel very strongly about that. That's why we want the quick fix. Do you know my herbs, when I take them in the morning that Kerri's prescribed me, they happen to be on a slightly lower table. So when I go to take them every morning, I have to do this little humble bow. And I go, thank you. Anyway, that was me for a minute. Back to the panel. So, Kerri, did you grab the mic?
No, Hollie just gave it to me. It just arrived here. What I was going to say, though, is that I think it actually speaks to the deep disconnect that we have between the earth, and ourselves and nature. And I think that's what it really is. Because, like Hollie, I do a lot of cyclic work, and when you reorient women back into their cyclicity, and it's not just their menstrual cyclicity, it's their life cycle cyclicity as well. You're hooking them into their internal and external seasons, and all of a sudden they're reoriented into this natural and instinctual place that they need to be in. And I think that that's really what it is. It's when we connect back into our bodies, when we connect back into the rhythm and the season of our body and the earth and the cosmos, that we actually realize you actually have all the tools to be well. You have all the tools to be well. Even the herbs, they grow everywhere. The weeds are everywhere. The medicine is everywhere. It's just having the tools to do it. Or saying, hey, can you teach me? That's what it is. And that's what this is about.
I totally agree and resonate with all of that. I think I've been living in Sri Lanka for the last 4 years, and coming back, and I went and did a foraging course, and they were talking about connection to country. And I was like, yes, we've lost connection to country. I think this is what that sickness, and as you said, herbal medicine and other health modalities are about health. Doctors and pharmaceuticals are about sickness. So if we focus on health side of things, it is this connection to knowing what's around us. Like, we all have dandelions growing outside our front door. That is the most nutritious food on the planet, in the top 10 or 100 nutritious foods. But no one knows.
Being a Greek.
Food security, it's like, would they know that they could survive living off dandelions? But the knowledge is lost in 2 generations. We've lost the knowledge. So we need to share the knowledge. People are now paying $100 to go on a foraging walk to learn about dandelions and how to ferment. When it was natural knowledge that got passed down. And what I was going to say about living in Sri Lanka is, I I have got hope about traditional herbal medicine because it is alive and well there. You know, the World Health Organization talk about 80% of the population taking herbs. Well, I saw it there. Like, we had a lady helping us. She, if we were sick, she'd boil up the coriander seeds. She'd go, oh, that plant down there, you can go and pick that, and she'd go and pick it for us. The herbalists tell the people, go and pick this plant and make it. They don't give, they do give them some medicine they've made, but mostly they just tell them where to go and pick it if they live in the jungle. And then that's how the knowledge is passed on. And so really, and I can't remember the quote, I haven't got any notes, but Sebastian Pohl from Pucker Herbs, I don't know if anyone knows, but he's really good at sustainability. He knows where all the herbs come from. He said something like, we're here, you know, giving herbal medicine to people to heal them. If we, you know, I mean, it's a bit unrelated, but if we don't think about using them sustainably as well, like just sort of raping the land for us, not without that connection, then it's an oxymoron. You know, because as you said, like this, we need to have that spiritual element with the herbs, which is what Indigenous medicine has. You know, it's not just take the herb and, like you said, supplements to a healthy lifestyle. You know, it's like if you don't have that spiritual element and understanding, you know, if you're harvesting them, you don't take it all because you need to have. There needs to be some for the animals, and there needs to be more for the next harvest. So you need to have that real connection rather than just taking it. So I think connection to country is not.
Yeah, actually you have to be very, very, very careful of the narcissism that is embedded in the New Age culture. You know, that's a little bit of a worry. You know, it's that taking without in a reciprocal relationship. Yeah, because, you know, I'm important and I've got self-love and I'm owning somewhere. You know? Jacqui, what's your passion on this question?
I see so much skepticism among so many people about saviour medicine. This is going to save me, or this will work really fast, like no other time before. When I first started teaching earth connection work, say 25 or so years ago, I'd get maybe 2 people after advertising for a month. Now my workshops are full within a week. I'm getting people who are ringing up, I'm hearing about things of what people are looking for. Every single woman in America, out of a study that was recently published, everyone that they tested and they've extrapolated to the entire population, which may or may not be good science, but pretty accurate, I'd say. Every one of those women who's breastfeeding has up to 2,000 times a safe level, or a toxic level, safer than what the government decides is safe, of what they call forever chemicals. They do not break down, ever. They accumulate. They cause thyroid disease, they cause newborn problems, they tie in with kiddies on the spectrum, liver disease, you name it. So there are people who are reading those studies, coming up with that information, and there's an increased skepticism of Dr. God and God government that will fix you and step in. Because what we've seen is that they're not doing it, or they're trying to do their best, but we've suddenly realised that, oh, they're winging it. Right, so what are we going to do? I'm seeing so many community movements, and what I love seeing is one snippet of information. I remember telling someone something a little while, it was a specific something. It came back to me about 5 years later, oh Jacqui, you know, what you should do is this. It's like, whoa, that was my story. Because it involved a particular client doing a particular thing. It was like, whoa, that story's come back, how fantastic. It's gone around. And that's what I love, is that grassroots whispering, because that's how plants communicate. And they spread through the mycelia, and I think we are damn good mycelia. And we spread it through the schoolyard, through the women at the canteen, and these sort of damn fine gatherings. I mean, I'm never going to look at a mushroom in the sun in the same way. And that's going to be shared. And there's so much that we're sharing and spreading around. Raspberry leaves has already gone around this circle, and how many pockets of communities do we have? And this is the way to spread it.
Yeah, inspiring. And in Maya, she talks about us collecting this this subversive army of women. You know, and to hear that statistic about the breast milk is absolutely heartbreaking. Heartbreaking that should be happening. When we did ceremony here in February, we had the women and the children in the centre, and that was they were representing the first law of the land, the Buru that was meant to be here to do the opening the other day. First laws in the centre is the women and the children, because the children are the future, and we hold that in the centre, and the men at the back to protect. What we've got now is got the patriarch in the middle, and this holding our mortgage strings and the money and the exploitation. Everybody's serving and puffed out, trying to serve that and survive, and that's got to change. But that's that story. I will share that. You know, what can we do? There's millions of women producing that milk. What the hell is on the horizon in the future, you know? That's the sort of thing that, bringing this energy through the little communities and building the wisdom and a bit to someone else and someone else and someone else, and hopefully these global whisperings get louder. And I really felt that story very strongly. I know that we're coming up to close to time now.
There's a couple more questions to take them, and we'll just catch it up through the lunch break.
Okay, so we'll do two more questions. And you can ask one of the panel directly, or we'll see if we can just give it a quick overview of the question.
Over time.
Okay, my question is, right now humanity is undertaking the largest human experiment ever. And I think it's the most important issue of our time. And so my question is, where do you see the role of herbal medicine and flower essences and whatnot in dealing with the fallout from that? In particular, women's cycles being disrupted. Not only those that are taking the experimental gene therapy that is being pushed upon the world, but those who are actually around those people that haven't had the experimental gene therapy that are also having really devastating effects on their cycles. Hearing stories of women bleeding, women who've gone through menopause starting to bleed again, miscarriages. So many serious health effects are happening, not only to those that are taking it, but those around those who are taking it. So where do you see our roles as healers and the plant medicines coming into that?
That's a really big one. It almost feels like we need to do like a mini workshop on that one.
If anybody isn't understanding what I'm referring to, it's the COVID vaccine.
Okay, so how are we going to do this? Is there a few words that everybody can say?
So, firstly, can you just extend some compassion to the people who are licensed and they have to be careful about the way they speak on the public health line? Yeah. So,
Thank you. Thanks, Hollie.
I wish that I'd said that right at the beginning of the weekend, actually, because it's important to really honour our practitioners. Yeah, what they're actually allowed to say, because it's being recorded right now. And I'll say, from a mitochondrial and counsellor perspective, that we don't know. We're never going to know until it happens. But what I know about mitochondria is that that's been here forever. So if we just work our way to getting back to that as much as possible, and that's a whole other workshop, right? But that's got to be a key, because that's what humans have done forever. There's something else, but it's gone. So that's right.
Okay, back to the mitochondria foundations. Okay, we're going to do the biggest gigantic question and a big wrap up.
I think everyone's got a choice. I think that's the most important thing with that whole thing. But I think it comes back to the foundations of health. That's all, because we were talking about this. Should I write something? Because there are a lot of people having protocols. I was going, we don't know. We don't know. And so I'm not writing anything because we don't know. We'll write something about the foundations of health. which is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
All you can do is look after your, you eat well and you drink water and you sleep and you go out in nature and, the pillars of health. And if you follow those, then you should be okay. I come back to that whole, the cure is near the cause. We're not allowed to say cure, but in a quote sort of sense.
Remedy.
The cure is near the cause, so what is growing around us prolifically is probably what we need.
Thank you.
I see nature as absolutely ingenious. I don't have an answer, but I know there are answers that are available in this matrix. We're dealing with, in the immune system and with our cycles, a living dynamic system. You can always clean a frog pond and bring that back to health. You can make compost that's fantastic for the soil and bring it back to great health. And we do the same thing with our herbs, with our essences, with our breath, with the vibrancy, the colour and the life force that we bring into our cells. You can work with the integrity of the mitochondria, of the DNA, of the cells, of your field. And you can engage with that through your psyche and in relationship with the planet. It's up to us to have enough curiosity and the hope that can come with curiosity to explore and be adventurers in the wild, because there's ways that we can dance in cahoots in order to come up with something. I've got no idea what it is, but there are ways of doing that to bring in vitality and balance.
Thank you. Kerri, did you have something to say? I've got a few words just to say that are bubbling over at the moment. I just got to get them out for a second. It won't be long. What I want to say is let's encourage each other to have the confidence to speak our truth and to engage with the wisdom within us, so that that voice gets stronger, because a lot of us are afraid because we've got the cult of the professional up there and our little small voice. How does that meet that? And as our voices get out more, we can actually enable other women to understand the very basic template of cyclicity and start to create their own resonant frequency with that and give them tools. But what it means is all of us having the courage to speak or express that truth. You may not have that piece of the CV, but we need to get that out to share it with others. That's what I feel very strongly about. Yeah. Kerri,
I was just going to say, working with the pillars of health, everybody can do that. Anybody can do that. And yes, I do think that if we use the herbs in support of those pillars of health, you have that. They're there to support, rebalance, and work with the body to bring it into health. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're just going to wrap up, and I want to wrap up by saying that was a really good question to end on, because what I can see in this panel here today is a reflection of the pathway forward. This unique expression of these women sitting in the healing modalities as they sit, in the different pathways they take within that. That is what it's going to look like.
Including
Put it, oh, okay. Yeah. Put it in a little package, and we'll put it in our little hope basket, and then we go and distribute it. Yeah. This is the future of health.
This is what holism looks like.
Yeah. And it's a two-way street, Thank you so much. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for, coming and speaking, for being on the spot. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you for the magic.
So we are a little bit over time, but we'll just catch it up in lunchtime. So all the sessions will still go for your 90 minutes now, and lunchtime will be a little bit shorter.